Hello everyone, welcome back to the KMTRADERS channel. So this is the full market analysis, giving you an insight of what we got up ahead, and also going to compare our analysis from last week as well. So we are going to start off with gold. So actually with this pair I've actually done some change of discussion, or kind of had a look a bit more further into this, and I'm actually changing my bias, which is basically the long-term bias. So basically my long-term bias now is pretty much expecting to go a bit higher into the 1900s to take out this high, and expecting more further continuations higher. But how we were looking at from last week's and the prior weeks, that there is expecting like a sell-off, that still is potentially on the cards, but pretty much I would be expecting an exhaustion to the upside before we can even start looking for those I guess those buying opportunities. So I'm going to draw in some extended values and some areas that I'm looking at further. So basically what we said last time was that we were looking for a break of 1750, but now I'm using that level as a support level. Pretty much if we break below this, it will give me some kind of idea that we're breaking lower. So this is now going to be my bearish ideas, or a confirmation for a sell-off. But I'm liking the way the price is pretty much stepping up nicely compared to the bears, and that's really why I've got that kind of change of mindset for now. So go ahead, get rid of this. We're looking for now for price to target this upside level, so the 1800, so more into 1900 levels. So where could we potentially look for our buys now? So basically the idea for this is pretty much just waiting for price to come back into this downtrend, and we could probably look for that entry point to the upside. Again, right now it's not really clear if this really does want to push up higher, so I'm going to wait for like a sell-off, and that's really where you could start to continue looking for those buying opportunities. Ideally, you know, this is not really looking like it could go up, even though we've had this strong move to the downside. I think this is where we could expect this uptrend to be manipulated, in the sense that, you know, there's going to be people buying or wanting to buy, maybe even at the bottom end. So we just have to pretty much just wait in store for that. But ideally I want to see this pretty much run into the 1900s, and probably escalate a bit further higher, but we can run into that, we can discuss that further once we, you know, get into those levels and into those ranges. So moving on to EURUSD. So what we've got outlined here is pretty much an opportunity for price to pull back. So I think that's what we were discussing last week. The idea of this is for price to potentially push, or, you know, retrace to some degree. So I believe around the 14th was the start of last week. Sorry, 17th. So yeah, so roughly around here is where the analysis is. So basically if we see that drop, that's fine. What we could potentially look out for this week is a pullback to some degree. So I'm going to be playing within this range, so we can go ahead and probably move this to the upside now at 1.15. I'm going to move that to here, and pretty much we're going to look out for some buying opportunities possibly, but mainly we're looking for those sells into the downside and to take out 1.12. So this is ideally the place that we can look at. We can already see here that the uptrend that we've got drawn has already been tested, so we could expect some sort of pullback. So we could get rid of this one, and then look out for this one and see if we can get a stronger reaction to the downside. So that's what I've got for EU. For NZD USD, so we actually came to a conclusion that, you know, this was the ultimate, pretty much the turning point of the market. We didn't really get to an opportunity to test the uptrend, but that's fine, because it means that at a later date we can use this to our advantage, and maybe we can keep an eye out for this downtrend. So as price is completely reversed, to the downside, that's not a problem at all. We can literally just wait for that pullback. So that's all I'll be doing personally. You know, obviously we might have to wait a little bit, but essentially we could be looking at some buying opportunities as we expect a pullback. And again, the range of this pullback could obviously really be a deciding factor, because there's still technically, we've not really broken this 6-7 low. So there is an idea that price could reverse up, and we could get price pushing into this to test this downtrend. You know, that is a possibility. So just keeping an eye out for that. Yeah, that's pretty much, you know, maybe we could look something like this, but that's where I stand. But if we start to see a drop and break lower, then we're just going to be waiting for, again, that pullback, and hopefully we can get a continuation on this as price makes a minor pullback, and then we can just look for that entry to the downside. So that's where I stand with NZD USD. Moving on to AUD USD. So for this, pretty much we're still trying to see if there's an opportunity towards the upside. Again, we've got the uptrend that's been formed, broken out of it right now. So you know, we've got a very small range that we're working with right now. So we just have to kind of see what's going to approach from this. So I am looking at around 71.5, which is around here. So basically, if this level holds, we could expect price to rally towards the upside, which makes this scenario valid. But if we get a break of this zone, even into 0.71, that's going to be even more confirmed for me. We could be looking at sells to the downside. Again, we're not going to expect price to definitely take out these lows or these zones. That's why we secure some profits. But you know, from a weekly perspective, we're just trying to see if this is the turning point to the downside, and if so, then we can, you know, pretty much get involved with that. So we could expect price to make a drop lower, and that could be the sign where we're expecting price to head into 0.7. Okay, so let's take a look into UJ. So UJ, so for this one, I had pretty much two mix, or kind of like two mindsets for this. What I was firstly looking out for is pretty much a possible buying opportunity, and it was just waiting for some sort of pullback. As we can see, prices really pulling back very nicely. So I've got just being aware of if this is going to hold at 113.5. So we could expect this to happen. If this does happen, then we're going to be looking at the top side into 116. I haven't really got anything else in my notes apart from this, but essentially if we start to break lower than 13.5, I might as well mark it in, because you can see how significant this is, this level. So roughly here, we can expect some sort of you know, possible downside move from this. So we just watch this support level. Let's get a bit more accurate on this, maybe utilizing the wicks, but ideally I will be looking for more of, you know, of this zone. If we start to get a break of this lower, we could expect price to, you know, probably take out this zone. So I'm probably going to go ahead and get rid of this, and if that does happen, we could look at something like this, where it's like a retest trade, and, you know, utilizing that zone. That would be a good idea. But yeah, pretty much this is, you know, the two variables that we've got right now. So an upside move and then a downside move. So I am also very mindful of this bearish move, so that's why I'm trying to see really if this really is a downside move or if it's going to be an upside move. So we'll soon find out next week. Take a look into CADJPY. So an absolute melt off through the week. So ideally what I was looking out for was price to make its way to the upside, but as you can see through this channel alone, it pretty much rejected straight on the top of it, and it just completely dropped off. So that's completely fine, and we can start to look into that second scenario that we spoke about last week, was waiting for price to potentially make that break to the downside, and then waiting for a pullback, and again that continuation lower. So we can start to look into that now. So yeah, that's pretty much all I'm going to be looking out for now. I think the upside value of 92 is a very strong kind of level for me. I think this would be a very nice level to kind of keep in mind, because if we go above this, I think that we should be become a bit more bullish. But for now, I think this is a bit more appropriate in the sense following price action and just waiting for a pullback, so we don't have to rush into this one. So that long-term kind of perspective on CADJPY is probably going to take some time. So again, if you do want to be involved with that pullback in terms of the buys, then just be aware that it's going to take some time, and you can obviously get caught out with that. So moving on to EJ. So for this, what we're looking at, I think from last week, was the sell-off opportunity. Again, this one had dropped off very nicely. Unfortunately, we just couldn't get into this one. Price moved rapidly. But yeah, in the sense of moving on from this and what we could expect, I'm looking for a pullback again, so hopefully we can start to get some sort of retracement, and then hopefully looking to take a sell into at least at a minimum 127.5. Again, the upside levels do hold. Again, if we do break above this, I'll be looking for more of bullish ideas, but for now, mainly I'm looking for sells into 127.5 and lower. So yeah, really this retracement, I think this is going to be the main move of the week. So whether the buys are going to take up this week, or the sells, eventually the sells are going to come back into play. So we could be looking at some buying opportunities into at least like 130 maybe, and then possibly drop off, and that's the idea of it, long-term perspective. But again, we'll have to see what unfolds with that. AJ, the perspective on this is, I'm looking at this in a more bullish manner. So again, we're looking at, I think last week we was looking at price potentially rallying to the upside, but I think we ended up getting caught out on the upside move here. Getting a couple of pips in here, but the move to the downside was pretty much predominant. So what I'm going to be focusing on is, again, that same scenario where we could potentially look at an upside move. My level that I'm actually looking out for this week is 80. So if we go, so essentially if we break lower than this, I think this will be a key idea, or a key possibility that price is potentially going to reverse to the downside, and that's where we can start to look for those sell-off biases and those ideas. But for now, I'm going to be looking for more bullish intentions, and looking to target at least 85 or 84. It's a nice level to potentially get our wins in, but again, some nice opportunity there. Coming into our last two pairs, USDCHF. So let's take a look into this one. So what we had expected from last week was a potential pullback to some degree. I was thinking maybe it would be a bit more of an aggressive push, but we can see there's some aggressive sells coming into play. So looking at 91. So again, I think the bias kind of still remains intact. I think again we ideally looked at some sells from last week, potentially, but that didn't really work out. But yeah, we were looking into this scenario here. So let me just redraw this because it's a little bit off. But yeah, essentially the drawings, or the idea is that we could get 91 to act as a nice support level, and we can look at this and hope that we can get into the upside to at least 93. The other option is if price does make its way to the downside and breaks this low, I'm going to be mindful that we could be looking at an upside opportunity, or we could be looking out for some more further sells. So if that does happen, in this case, I will be, again, if we break this 91 level, I'm going to be looking for both buys and sells, and then just trying to hedge our way into the positions and let them go break even and see what happens. That's obviously if we can get into those positions. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at for USDCHF. USDCAD, this one I'm looking for, again, the upside move. So as you can see, price has pretty much did that very nicely. It came down and broke the low, 17th, so around here. So that was last week. So we've pretty much been very choppy, broke this tiny bit of a low, so coming into 124.5. So following on from this scenario here, and now it's rapidly pushing up. So now we can pretty much go ahead with this level and go ahead at 124.5. I think that's going to be a nice level of support. So what I'm looking at now is maybe a pullback and then the continuation up higher. In terms of target, I'm not really too sure, but I'm looking at 127 ideally. Again, I don't want to go too far with this, but essentially we're looking at this for now. So I'm going to be waiting for price to show us a sign that it may want to push up higher before we take a buy, obviously. But yeah, so we can obviously look at sells, counter trend, but mainly we're looking at buys. So again, that will be all for this week. Pretty much it's been a nice start into January. Another side note is that if you haven't done so already, we've had some updates with the crypto space. So if you want to check those videos, feel free to do so. Leave your if you have any things you want to talk about in that, let me know. But yeah, if you did get any value from this, make sure to leave a like. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed. And thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you all in our next week's video.